people come from Israel. You are ancestors. We live in a Why is that when you say that you're a Jew? Are you guys like this?
Yeah, Anthem won't cover anything.
So I have to take drugs. I have to take drugs every day, 4 times a day to treat my bone disease, and they don't pay for it.
And then when you go to the...
People go to Mexico for their drugs. That's what's hilarious.
Yeah.
And when you go to the pharmacy, a lot of times they'll shelve your prescription because they didn't know if you wanted to pay that amount.
Yeah.
I have to pay the amount.
I guys show up, they go, oh, well, we didn't fill it. Why? Because the insurance wouldn't cover it. I'm like...
Oh, I'll just die.
I go, you didn't call my doctor and ask if I really need it. You didn't call me. The insurance company said no, so you just didn't fill the prescription. Yes, that's how it works. Okay, could you fill the prescription? They go, oh, you're just going to pay for it? No, I'll just die.
You know what?
It's amazing.
I would rather die than fill out paperwork. I hate doing paperwork that much. I don't know how people don't pop off and shoot an insurance person every time they got to go through that. I guess you're sick. That's why.
Yeah, you're sick. I was too sick to do that. But anyway, IHOP is in the news because a lady, you want to hear a spoiler alert, a waitress fed a homeless guy and they fired her.
Give jokes.
They fired her. Apparently IHOP stands for I Hate Oppressed People.
Huh.
And on second thought, I'm not sure what kills homeless guy faster, eating at IHOP or living on the street. Am I right? Come on. Last time I was eating at an IHOP, I was working in Houston. This is probably 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and I would go for breakfast every day at the IHOP, and I would get 2 eggs over easy. That's what when I'm home, I eat them scrambled because I know how to make them. Or I make an omelet, I know how to make them. Most places don't; they come out like rubber. So when I'm on the road, I order over easy. And this is she was one of these white. She was white, but she talked. She had an accent that it sounded like she was trying to speak black. That's what it said.
She probably grew up with black people. She works at IHOP, Jimmy.
So I said, yeah, can I get 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast, and some hash browns? You want them over medium? I go, what? You want them over medium? And I was like, no, I want them over easy. You want them over medium? Like, she just kept saying that.
Oh, so she didn't want you to get sick.
I'm like, no, I like them over easy. You don't want them runny. I go, no, I want them how they come. It was like crazy. She did this 2 days in a row to me.
Really?
And I'd heard her go to other tables. She'd go, you want them over medium? Like, I've been ordered. I'm 50 years old. I've been ordering eggs my whole life. I know how to order eggs.
Does she know something about the kitchen that you don't? Trust me, you're going to want to cook those a little more.
Well, she should have said that. She should have said that. But anyway, here's the story. Here's the want to hear the story? Here's what happened.
Polk County woman says her simple act of kindness left her out of a job the day before Thanksgiving. She says she was fired from her server.
Look at this guy goes to the same hairstylist Jackson Hinkle does. That's what I like.
Job after helping a homeless man get something to eat. News Channel 8's Georgia MacArthur spoke with the woman, joins us live in Lakeland now with her story. Georgia.
Josh, Victoria Hughes says she was just trying to help someone in need, but she says her manager told her she violated the company policy and let her go. But turns out this is not the end of her story. Victoria Hughes says she spent 13 years serving customers at this IHOP off US 98 in Lakeland. Kick it! But now, instead of working the holiday rush, Victoria is at home with her family. Hughes says a good deed led to her termination after she served food to a homeless man this past Sunday.
He stated to me in the host that he was hungry. Without a second thought, I bought the stack of pancakes and made him a water.
Hughes.
She bought them. She didn't give it to him for free. She wasn't stealing from IHOP. She paid for the pancakes and gave it to the homeless guy and made him a water. I don't know how you do that, but she did.
That's a miracle, Jimmy.
They have a water machine. Anyway, here we go.
As she then
She
informed
sounds
her
like the waitress
manager,
who
but
served your eggs,
claims
by the
his
way.
reaction caught her off guard.
Told me the reason behind him being upset because of it could cause a loitering issue or things like that, or a safety issue to the customers.
Hughes says tensions escalated further when the same homeless man returned with a family who brought him in for another meal. Then on Tuesday, Hughes says she received a phone call from her manager telling her she'd been let go.
He talked to me yesterday and told me that I was fired. I asked him for what, and he said company policy.
Despite losing her job just before the holidays, Hughes told us she stands by her decision.
I need my job. But I would still do it again. I truly would. I would still help somebody if I could. If he asked me for my shirt, I probably would have tried to give him.
She really needs her job, but I think she thought she was working for the National House of Pancakes. This is, Kurt, you know, this is the International House of Pancakes, and their motto is "fuck the poor." It's run by NATO.
You got to work at you would not work at NHOP.
Yeah, here we go.
Wait, do you remember Starbucks? They fired the woman because she wouldn't let a homeless guy use the bathroom during the BLM times, and now you're fired for buying food just before Thanksgiving.
No.
That's very strange.
This is strange. Just right before Thanksgiving. Here, there's more to this story. Watch this, though. She says she needs the job, but watch this.
But there is a surprising twist to this story. After 8 on Your Side got involved, Hughes tells us she got a call direct from IHOP's corporate office, a call that included a job offer and compensation for the days of work she missed.
He also told me that he would make a donation, a healthy donation to the charity of my choice in my local community.
We reached out to IHOP regarding this incident, and they provided us with this statement in part, quote, "As we actively investigate the situation, we utilize this as an opportunity to train our employees on how to approach instances surrounding food insecurity." And as far as Hughes goes, she told us she needs some.
Apparently, buying a plate of pancakes for a hungry homeless guy is not the way to approach food insecurity. Apparently.
First of all, that term is so jacked off. Food insecurity.
Food insecurity.
Like, people, homeless, starving
you
people.
Mean starving people? Okay, here's
yeah.
There's more. Hold on.
Time to make a decision on whether or not she will return to the company.
She hasn't made a decision. She just said, I need this job. And then she says, I haven't made a decision if I'm going to return or not.
Well, I mean, there's probably other probably the National House of Pancakes.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
There's Waffle House.
There's Waffle House. There's Bob Evans. Maybe there's
It's amazing.
What? Go ahead.
These restaurants are not that far from being homeless. It's not like it's some high-class restaurant. Like, we can't have that kind in here.
Right.
I mean, it's people like a week away from homelessness, half of the restaurant.
You know, they got a place called Cracker Barrel.
Bring me to the bed. I mean, a family brought him in, so I'm assuming it's a nice homeless guy. You know, that's an unusual thing.
After spending some time with her family for the holidays. Reporting in Lakeland, I'm Georgia MacArthur. 8 on Your Side.
8 on your side. That's what I like. I like that 8 is on our side. So I don't know if this actually goes together. These stories. This might be two different stories. But Greg Gutfeld hosts a show. He's now the #1 late night guy by a mile. And he didn't come from comedy. I think he came from news, right? He just
came from, I think, Details magazine, and then
okay.
I first heard of him.
I was on his show when it was called Red Eye.
Yeah, I did. Sometimes I do his Gutfeld show. But I used to do Red Eye. Yeah,
I'd love to do his Gutfeld show, but he hasn't invited me. But he did do this. So the I don't know. My producer put these two stories together. Let's see. Maybe I think they're two separate stories. We'll see. We're talking about homeless, so that's why this maybe goes together. So they were talking about homelessness on the 5, and here's what Greg Gutfeld said about it, and we'll see what happens.
Homelessness is not based on the lack of affordable housing.
It's not.
That's a very strange idea.
That is a strange idea. You know, for every $100 the median rent goes up, homelessness increases by like 2%.
Well, the people on heroin are not the bulk of the homeless have jobs. That's the fucking crazy part.
That's what we're going to get there. Don't tip the story. But here we go. So here's what he said.
Homeless is not based on the lack of affordable housing. That would be like saying illegal immigration is based on a lack of places to live. That's not the way it is. It's where you prefer to go. The media cherry picks stories of the homeless that make it feel like it's, families and it's veterans. That may be a tiny, tiny part of this problem. We could solve that instantly. It's mostly young to middle-aged dudes who settle into the life because it's not really that bad. Hobos on heroin. I mean, think about it. You don't pay any bills. You got no mortgage. You get free stuff. I've been thinking about it. But, I like clean bathrooms.
That sounds more like a guy trying to get a laugh and not, but that's a weird way to, that's a weird way to get a laugh. You want to make fun of a society that accepts homelessness, and he's there saying, no, all the people, you don't have to worry about it because the homeless people want to be there. Isn't it weird when I go to Norway, nobody wants to be homeless, but everybody wants to be homeless in America? Isn't that weird? And by the way, you want to know who's really here? What percentage, I asked Grok, what percentage of homeless people actually have jobs? Well, a comprehensive study from the University of Chicago in 2021 found that over half of the people living in homeless shelters have jobs. And 40% of people who are unsheltered had earnings from an employment in the same year that they experienced homelessness. So over half the people who are in homeless shelters have jobs. These aren't. So he just made that up. And
wait. He's in New York. So this is Polk County, where a family goes, oh, homeless guy. It's probably not a thing you see all the time there, is what I'm getting from that story. In New York, the homeless you're seeing are not the people with jobs. You're seeing like people.
Right. You don't see those. It's the hidden homeless.
He doesn't know. He has no idea. He's in New York.
The homeless that are living in shelters, the homeless that are living in their cars. He doesn't see those homeless people.
No, never. And in New York, you wouldn't. New York makes you numb to homelessness and glue traps for mice. Those two things make, like, glue traps the most cruel trap. You will have no mercy on a mouse ever again if you live in New York. That's what it does. So that's a real elitist kind of East Coast New Yorky thing that he's talking about, because that's all he sees, and he's not conceiving of the how much worse of a story it is all around. And also, I'm going to ask him this on his team again. Reagan let all the crazy people out that you're talking about that you don't care about. That was Reagan.
Yeah.
We didn't used to have just crazy drug addicts roaming the streets. Ronald Reagan pioneered that. Your boy Reagan.
So they're not all hobos on heroin. By the way, didn't hobos on heroin open for Cramps at the CBCB's in 1982? Yeah. Anyway, so the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness states that as many to 40 to 60% of people experiencing homelessness have jobs. So this isn't lazy people who choose to do heroin and live on the street. These are people who are working, and we live in such an end capitalism hellscape that they can't afford housing.
There's a lot of vets, too. It's not a tiny percentage of vets. It's quite a lot of vets, as a matter of fact. They have whole communities of vets in California that are just homeless, where there's a guy that used to be like the sergeant that's in charge of the tent camp. There's a lot of vets. I don't know why he's saying it's not that many vets.
So we're going to find out. How many children are homeless? They're not just young dudes doing heroin. Well, 2.5 million children are homeless each year in the United States. This figure was highlighted by the National Center on Family Homelessness in a report from 2014, indicating that 1 in every 30 children in the United States experiences homelessness annually. This estimate has been referenced in more recent data from the Department of Education for the 2021-22 school year identified nearly 1.2 million children as either literally homeless, meaning living in shelters, cars, or tents, or doubled up, sharing housing beyond its intended capacity. I bet that's good for kids, huh? That's good. That helps them learn.
Toughens them up, Jimmy.
What do you mean kids are homeless, Jimmy? They can make a fort out of anything. Am I right? Don't you remember as a kid you took all your sofa cushions, turned them into your own little cave in the well, that you need a house for that. This
is also people. Most of the people that experience homelessness, it's a frightening number. They're not permanently homeless.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Permanent homeless is what he's thinking of,
Yes.
which is people addicted to all the drugs that the CIA brings in our country to cause this.
So,
like,
I know. What percentage, Kurt, of homeless, what the percentage of the homeless population are children? Between 20 and 30% of the homeless population in the United States are children. So 3 out of 10 homeless people are children, meaning under the age of 18.
If you don't see him, you don't know. If you don't see him, you know what I mean? You don't see homeless kids like that. But don't worry, you will soon. You're going to start seeing that all the time.
How many children are homeless in California, where I live? Well, approximately 230,000 public school students in California were identified as experiencing homelessness. The number represents the highest in the nation and constitutes more than 1 in 5 U.S. public school students recorded as homeless. For the 2022-23 school year, the state reported that 3.8% of California's school-aged children were homeless.
Yeah.
Which translates to 187,000 students.
You know, I used to work as a repo man or assistant to the repo man when I lived in Queens. And a lot of people were on the edge of being homeless. Sometimes people would be living in their car. We had to go real early in the morning. And then you had to check to see if someone was living in the car that you're supposed to repossess. It's a real downer. My whole job, by the way, was basically just to watch the guy's back to make sure no one hit him with a wrench or something. And he had a bulletproof vest and I had a sweatshirt. Lots of people are in this situation in New York where Greg lives. He just doesn't see it. And I'm telling you that New York kind of stupid where you're like, oh, it's fine, whatever. You see it on The View. You see it on every show you watch where they're like blasé about it. That's New York. It's really like prime stupid right now.
Well, this is California. And
no, I know they're stupid about that too.
I'm sure Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is going to come up with a sane and reasonable solution to the problem of child homelessness. Like, I bet he's going to offer the students to live in their classrooms as long as they all agree to swap genders.
I think his plan is going to be the same as always. Steal $23 billion that was supposed to fix the problem.
So how many veterans? So he brought up veterans. So maybe we can disabuse him of that idea that it's a very, very small percentage. As of January 2023, there were 35,574 veterans experiencing homelessness in the United States on a single night. Of this number, 20,000 were sheltered, while 15,000 were unsheltered. This represents a significant decrease from earlier years, with an overall reduction of about 55% since 2010. Although there was a 7% increase between 2022 and 2023. So, is that okay? 35,000 vets every night? Veterans. So, isn't it weird how the mafia is more loyal to their own than the United States is to their own military?
And the mafia is not known for its loyalty to their guys.
Right.
Once there's, that's bad. That's a bad statement.
Anyway, so okay, well maybe somebody can show Greg Gutfeld this clip, and then he won't say stuff like that again.
One time on Race Wars with Sharab, my old podcast, we had Greg on, and I was against the death penalty, just because, not because I don't think some people should get the death penalty, but in case you make a mistake, I would say one person who was innocent is too many people. Okay, and Greg was like, well, I'm fine with it. He said very honestly, usually people won't say, if somebody conservative, they'll go like, oh, it never happens. There's no record of that ever happening. But Greg so was remarkably honest, and it's like it's just the blasé thing of you don't have to know all the facts about it. You know, you just know what you know, and it's very common on there. I mean, he's a guy you could talk to at least. I really like Greg, but everybody I know in New York has that feeling because the homeless you see, I mean, it's It's crazy what goes on now. Last time I was there, it's out of control. They don't see kids. They don't see the vets. What they see is crazy people on the street on meth and fentanyl. So it's like being a cop in a bad neighborhood, how you would eventually be warped by that. Yeah. Or if you were in prison, you'd be warped. It happens. It's a bad place, New York.
I did look into, in California here in LA County, we passed another proposition to give tax money to solve the homeless problem. Because every time citizens are asked, do you want to pay more in taxes to solve the homeless problem? We always say yes.
Right. They forget the second part.
And
you just pay the taxes and they don't do the other part.
It is I want to take a deep dive. I started to do a deep dive on this today. It is unbelievable, the bad management of the. We're giving them several $1 billion a year just in LA County, and the homeless problem is worse than ever.
Yeah.
And you know what they do? Yeah. What they do is they hire private contractors to go take care of the home. No, just like when I was a kid. You had the guy who came to pick up your garbage worked for the city. The guy who plowed the snow worked for the city. You didn't hire a company. The guy who cut the grass at the public park worked for the city. So someone who goes out and works for and tries to solve homelessness should work for the city. That's how you get rid of the graft and the grift and the
profit motive.
And the profit motive.
Because that motive overrides everything. So they did this big study about how the homeless organization, the department to take care of homelessness in LA County wasn't paying their vendors. Why are there vendors? Yeah, right.
Why don't you just hire people to go fix this problem?
And that's, by the way, I don't want to hear the government can't do anything because these are like cutouts like the fucking CIA uses.
Yeah.
It's the same everywhere. They outsource it to a guy who outsources it to a guy.
Yes.
And so that is not streamlined. I don't know what the fuck people are talking about when they go, private could do it better. Does it? It hasn't.
At least
what are you talking about?
At least when the guy when the mafia ran the sanitation business, 20% of it was going to the mafia, but they still picked up the garbage. Here,
they didn't steal it and not pick it up.
Yeah, they stole, but they at least picked up the garbage. They're not even doing that. They're not taking care of the homeless problem. They're just stealing the money.
Do you remember, Jimmy? It was in China a story where some businessman hired a hitman. I can't remember why he hired him, but that hitman hired another hitman, who then hired another hitman, and the money kept dividing.
Yeah,
there was like 8 hitmen by the end, and the last guy went to the victim and was like, just like. Leave and don't come back, and I would even kill for $14,000. Hilarious, and all 8 of them were on trial together. But I mean, that's an example. That's how everything works, just like that.
That is
the hitman hires another hitman who doesn't even do the hit.
Well, that's like my nephew reported in Chicago on when they had this influx of illegal immigrants, and they didn't have any place to put them, so they were putting them up in police stations, and then they were paying for medical care.
Yeah,
they weren't hiring nurses directly. They hired a company.
Yeah,
that donated to the mayor, and then they provided, and so they would charge the city like $100,000 a week for one nurse. Now the nurse is not getting that money. The nurse is not getting that money.
Right. No, it's classic Chicago.
So that's how I'm almost positive that's how they're dealing with the homeless problem too.
Well, it's incentivized to make sure the problem's not solved because guess what?
Yeah.
You get free.
That's right.
Job creation.
It's job creation.
Private job, never solving this.
If I got a company that services homelessness, I don't want it to end. Anyway,
public-private partnership.
Public-private partnership. All right, over to Steph.
I just wanted to add, a friend sent this. Governor Gavin Newsom vetoes California bill to track homelessness spending. Just so you know, he did.
He vetoed a bill
to track
homelessness. So they have spent $20 billion in like the last, 10 years at least.
Was he the Pentagon?
In California, and they don't know where the money went, and nobody asked them. This is a one-party state, California. Democrats run everything.
And there's
no accountability.
Jimmy, like, I want to have a socialist or a capitalist. I really don't give a shit because it really doesn't matter until you get these corrupt fucking gangsters the fuck out and they are entrenched. It don't matter what system you want to run.
But the problem is, here's the problem, Kurt, that the same people who own the politicians, because they're owned, Gavin Newsom's owned, all the people, they're owned. The same people who own the political parties own the media.
Yeah, right.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I just want to add this because this supports you. Despite, this is from the B, and they go on to say, despite spending $24 billion
in California
in the past 5 years, $24 billion
I know.
over the past 5 years, the problem has continued to worsen in California. Homelessness increased by 6% this year from the year before, driven mostly by states' high cost of housing.
They won't build affordable housing. They just won't do it.
They don't want it. They don't want that. They'd rather you be homeless than live next door to them. I'd rather you die in the street than have a home anywhere near me.
We just passed another ballot measure in LA County to take a quarter of a penny of every sales tax, and give it to homelessness, which is going to raise $1 billion. So you know what they did? They created a new agency.
Oh, good.
So they're not using. There's another agency that takes care of homelessness. They just created a new one with this new tax.
Right.
And they
right.
appointed another guy to run it. He's got to have all his administrators. He's got to have a building. I mean,
this is like doing colleges when I was on the Chitlin circuit, and it would be like a $30,000 gig, but they give you $500.
Yes.
The comic who's like the go-between.
Yeah.
Well, why? How is it efficient? I want somebody who's a real capitalist mind to explain to me how it's efficient to have all these go-betweens. Like, how is that? That's what privatization is. First, your taxes pay it.
Yeah.
Then they pay people who pay people who pay people. And it's just like a series of middlemen. Worse than any government. You know, there's still people in Russia that liked the Soviet Union because they got services. You know?
Yeah. All right. Let's take a break and we'll be right back. Should we go to Rumble? Or? Let's go to Rumble. We're going to go to Rumble. We'll be right back. See you over at Rumble.
Now,
hey, check this out. So after the election, it seems a few Democrats are finally waking up to the idea that identity politics doesn't actually win elections. Shocker, right? Turns out ignoring real issues and bending over backwards for corporate interests might actually be the problem. Who knew? Democratic Congressman Seth Moulton flat out blamed Harris and the Democrats' unwillingness to move on trans athletes for the party's election night losses. Didn't know that. Of course, this didn't vibe well with any establishment media, and he was immediately attacked for those comments. No kidding. Mass Live, which of course is owned by a giant media conglomerate, ran this headline: facing a furor, Moulton tries to explain remarks on trans athletes.